I'd like to go ahead and welcome everyone to the March 22nd Board of Selectmen meeting. I wonder if we might start to take a moment of silence for our safety personnel and also for the members in Belgium that have either been lost or injured. Thank you all.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I note that this meeting is being televised and recorded. If there's anyone in the audience that is recording or videotaping, I'd ask that they acknowledge at this time. Michael Roush from the Enterprise. Thank you, Michael. Are there any public comments this evening, Jim?
There were none requested, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Let's take a look at the minutes from January the 5th.
Mr. Chairman, we have minutes from January 5th. I reviewed them, and I did not note any areas in need of correction or any typos, so I would move approval of the minutes as presented.
Okay, I've got a
Second.
motion that's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of January 5th. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Correspondence, Mr. Blanton this evening. It's a long list.
Thank you very much. Welcome back, Mr. Chairman. Yes, you're right.
Thank you.
You've come back to a very long list of correspondence consisting of exactly one piece of mail. And it was from Mr. Jason Tardif, who submitted a letter of interest to serve on our Recreation Committee. And you'll see his letter attached here, expressing his interest and his experience both in West Virginia and in Massachusetts and in Bourne. However, I do also have a note here that says there are currently no vacancies on the Recreation Committee.
Correct, but there are other committees that he has indicated that he may be interested in, so we're searching some and then sending him a list of things that may be of interest where there are vacancies.
Sounds fantastic, and that concludes the correspondence.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next agenda item is a discussion of the school design alternatives. This is for the new, sorry, I'm long.
Do we propose possible replacement for People's Elementary School?
Thank you very much, Peter. Do you want to start us off, Peter, with kind of an introduction, since you're the liaison with the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This evening, I'm here to talk to the public at large, at home, and out in the audience. We're small but quality that's out there, about the options that we have for the People's School alternative. Now, what's before the public right now are four options. A K through 4, 250 student school, replacing the existing People's School in its entirety. The cost is roughly $36.5 million, and with the state reimbursement, it's $28.3 million. Option 2, question, is pre-K through 4, Bourne Elementary School for 725 students with a cost of $38.63 million and a reimbursement of roughly $30 million or $29.75 million. Option 4A, a new school for 410 students, so it's K through all of 5th grade. New on the People's School site, as of now, is listed at $41.3 million, and with reimbursement from the state of $32 million. And then if you renovate People's School, 4B, renovate the People's Elementary School, tear out the back portion, and then you add in the front, that cost would be roughly $42.78 million with a reimbursement total adjusted at $32.64 million. Option 1 would take roughly 2 years. Option 2 would take 26 months, or 2 years, 2 months. Option 4A is 24 months, and option 4B is 30 months, because you have to do site work first before you can start from construction. There are other options that are being proposed. There is a 5th option that will be discussed for the first time tomorrow night, which is K through 2, all throughout town at Bourne Elementary, 3 through 5 at the new People's for the whole town, 6 through 8 at the middle school, and 9 through 12 at the high school. I don't have any other more than that right now because we're not gonna be discussing this for the first time until tomorrow night. But it's an option that the superintendent and team took to MSBA when they met last week. The reason why we're bringing this forward is at some point in the next 2 months, we are gonna be sitting down and paring these options down to one option. And in order to get this approved, it's gonna be a cost factor. And we need to look at any and all options. The public needs to understand what's going on. Now, is People Elementary School in desperate need of replacement? Yes. People's Elementary School has outlived its usefulness, in my opinion. However, the public needs to know what potentially they're gonna be voting on. And we need to make it sound simple. And so, the thing that I'm having a hard time grasping around at this point is $28.3 million for a school that has 250 students, or roughly 3 classrooms per grade. I mean, it's just where you got a 410 student K through 5 for roughly 3.6 million more, $32 million at the reimbursement. Just means all the 5th grade will be there on one site. I don't know. This group has worked hard. We've been trying to get the information out there. We've been having public sessions between the People's Elementary School and the Bourne Elementary School alternating. We've had our meetings on Thursday nights. They've been televised, but I think, and we also have now done a survey through SurveyMonkey, and the results, we have been given the results as a school building committee meeting members, and we'll be reviewing those on Thursday night. But if they want to move on and start eliminating options and advocating for a new building, then we need to start educating the voters or asking the voters what they want. And the biggest problem I hear around town is costs. Is we just voted down an override of last October. However, how are you going to justify this? How are you going to justify a new police station on top of it? When are we going to stop? When is the taxpayer going to stop paying for all these improvements or assets that we need? However, the police station is way overdue, and it's been justified for many years. But the school also has been the one that's always been put on the back burner as well. And so we need to really, I think, as a school building committee, we need to push our consultant, our architect, and our team to try to streamline some of these numbers, because any way we can save money will give us a better chance for this to be successful. And I'm not gonna go into the weeds tonight on, hazmat site work and everything else, because some of those numbers are fluid and they can change. But I wanted the membership to know, what is going on. On option 2, they say option 2, we could have the most chance for reimbursement because we are,
Sorry, Peter, would you remind
option,
us what option 2 is?
option 2 is adding on the Bourne-Dale Elementary School.
Thank you.
And the problem, and they're saying that the rate is 43.8%, but then you have a maintenance score of a point, construction manager at risk for a point. You have a renovation component, which is almost 3 points, 2.97, and then if you build a green school, it's 2 points, which comes up to 50.81%. But then what's not on this sheet is because the school's 10 years or less old, because MSBA may penalize us because the building's too new, and they may start taking points away that, because we'll be basically double dipping. We just paid for something 10 years ago, and now you're asking for it again. And so alternately, option 2, which is pre-K through 4, all at Bourne-Dale, may end up being a not so desirable option because of cost. Because, it could just end up costing more. And there's a lot of merit for having schools on each side of the canal. I know people don't want to cross the bridge. They don't want to get stuck in traffic. I know me growing up in kindergarten, I went from Taylor's Point, Buzzards Bay, out to Otis Air Force Base. So I was the youngest child going the furthest away. And it was on a Superfund site, but we didn't know at that time. But there is merit for having 2 elementary schools in the town of Bourne, people like to have a neighborhood school. The only thing when doing that is, this new school will have an innovation studio, like they have at the high school right now. Bournedale Elementary School will not have an innovation studio, which means they have to bus and come over the bridge to use it. And one thing I hope comes out of this whole feasibility process is continuation or consistency in learning, where everybody can be afforded the same opportunity in each building. So it's, so someone's not getting something better than anybody else. So I hope that as we go to a stream like this, whatever option comes out, I hope that we can promote or, create a quality of learning that is consistent across the board. Another issue I have, but I think needs to be discussed, is the 5th grade in People's School or back at the middle school. I personally think the school building committee is not the place to be just deciding, a curriculum plan of where the students would be, how you want to educate your students. And I think that's a policy or suggestion of the school committee. They're elected to make that decision. You tell us, I want a school with this grade configuration, and then I think the school building committee should be able to go back and try to deliver on the school committee's request. Yes, the school committee is in charge of our students in the town of Bourne. However, this is a town project, not just an educational project, because this building will also be used by the public at large. One of the criteria is making this building accessible after hours for gym, for civic events and everything else. So this is an issue that services the whole community. Granted, students will be in there the majority of the time, but this is a town project. The students are a product of the town of Bourne, and we are all one big piece of the pie. So this is part of my presentation back to you all to explain what's going on. And does anybody have any questions or suggestions? Michael, you've been to some of the meetings. You can say things I left out. Through the chair.
Sure. Anything, Michael?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Peter. I think you really covered pretty much all of the conversation that went around it. I was going to elaborate on a couple things you already brought up with regard to option 2. Because that is the addition onto the Bournedale School, and it's the newest of the buildings, we may be penalized in the reimbursement rate. That was one of the concerns. We did have conversations with a few of the folks who attended the sessions, and they were very concerned about the configuration to have either grades 1 through 4 or 1 through 5, whether or not the 5th grade should be part of that component, or whether or not the 5th graders are ready to matriculate in with the older students in the next grade range. And then, of course, the ever-present question with regard to some families as to whether or not the school should be on one side of the canal or the other, and how the accessibility might be a factor either in the summer months when the Thursday and Friday traffic tends to be the heaviest, how that might impact things. One of the options we talked about with regard to either the renovation or the new construction of Peoples would be the potential for the inclusion of community space in there.
Yeah.
Just like we use Bourne High School to house our town meetings and other significant meetings, there may be an opportunity as they're looking at a design for the new school especially, but even the retrofit, there might be the opportunity for combined community meeting space of some sort, and it might duplicate some of what this building does, or give space for folks on that side of the canal, the south side of the canal, to have that type of communal meeting space. So that was also part of the conversation that occurred. I think one thing I do want to stress to the members of this committee, I'm sure they know, and members of the public, if they've been in this town for a while, they would certainly know. And if you haven't been in town for very long, you need to get on over to Peoples Elementary School. You need to spend a little time walking around that building. I hadn't been in the building in an awful long time, but I went there for grade school. And although I am a fan of antiques and I'm a fan of preservation, that elementary school looks almost identical to the shape that it was in when I walked the halls there an awful long time ago. I don't think that's a very encouraging thing when you talk about the contemporary state of our education that we're offering to the youth of this town. So I would encourage this body to consider working with other departments to maybe even host some meetings in the gymnasium, in the meeting space, and create a vehicle for people from the town to get on over to Peoples and take a look for themselves exactly what kind of condition it's in, what kind of studying conditions, learning conditions the children of our town are studying in, and I think that might help the conversation about coming up to the 21st century.
Okay, anything else to add, Peter?
I can't stress enough that on every other Thursday night, and when we have our meetings, if it's a workshop at Peoples of Bourne, or if it's a meeting in this room or another room in the community building, that we need the public participation. We need the people to to come in the room, listen, and to give us that feedback, because there may be ideas out there that we're not thinking about, and we would like to hear, because I don't want to be sitting on town meeting floor and all of a sudden someone coming up the mic saying, "Well, this is the first I've heard about this." We've been advocating for this since last summer. We've had forums, we've been talking about on different media outlets, and if people have a concern for or against, or tell us, something that we're not doing that we should consider, then I invite you to please come to our meetings on Thursday nights. They start at 6:30, and to participate, or send an email to SBC, School Building Committee, sbc@townofbourne.com.
If I might, I have a question relative to option 2, which is the adding on to the Bourndale Elementary School. You both mentioned that there may be a penalization to the town because we're renovating a building that is less than 10 years old. Are we actively as a town trying to get an answer whether that type of a penalty could be waived?
Yes, that's what last week's visit to MSBA was about.
Okay.
And I don't think they've heard back yet. We'll know more from the consultant on
Yeah.
Thursday night.
Do we know what the scale of the penalty might be? Are we seeing that in the $38.6 million cost?
Yes,
Okay.
I
We know
believe,
how-
I believe so, but I can double check. them.
Okay. All right. Any questions from any other member? Dawn, please.
Jerry,
Yes, thank you. Welcome.
we all have in the packet that we got a letter from Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Lamash, dated March 16th.
Yeah.
And it has a breakdown on 2 other pages about how he intends to do that. I think this is a kind of a revolutionary idea. I like the way the presentation is here, and if this fits into one of the building projects that we've got, I think it'll work perfectly, because you got K through 2, 3 through 5, and 6 through 8, and at the 5th year, they're not quite a junior high. They're at an age that needs to be separated, I think, from the 6th. And so therefore, the K2, 3, 5, 6, 8 seems to be an excellent match. And I wonder if, Mr. Meyer, has this been given any consideration? Do you know?
It will be for the first time on Thursday night.
Brand new.
Okay, good. Because I do think this has a lot of merit, and I think it should be vetted out. And it probably would work very well with the way the system is and looking at these different options. And I like the way this got broke down for us to read, by the way. But I would like to see the other one that's proposed to go forward included the next time on this. It'll be very helpful.
When we get it on Thursday night, I'll make sure I get it over to you before the weekend.
I appreciate that very much. But I do think that this letter from Mr. Lamash is on point, and I think we should really look into that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jerry. Thank you. Any other comments, questions from anyone in the audience? Please.
Yours is gonna be much better than mine, probably.
You need to come to a mic, or I can relay it for you.
I was wondering, when will recommendations flow?
Within the next 2 months. I mean, what happened, we were supposed to vote April 7th on the proposal, but because of this fifth option, it's been pushed back. So you're probably looking 2 months out, probably no later than June, before you see the recommendation in MSBA. School Building Committee for the Superintendent. and then we can go through the process, and then you'll probably see a town meeting probably October, November. The one thing I will advocate for is more than anything, is if we have to go for debt exclusion in the fall, I'm gonna ask that we bite the bullet and have a special election as opposed to putting the presidential ballot. 'Cause we saw what the presidential ballot did for the DPW the first time. And it went down by 500 plus votes, you know, so.
What Mr. Meyer is referring to is if this was put on the ballot with the presidential election, it would be on the back side of the ballot. And
6
there's a li-
pages and, you know,
It'd be
it's-
likely that it would be missed, which is what happened with the DPW vote, so.
yeah, so I think from a process, it's something that needs, that merits discussion.
Well, certainly in a project this big, that I would certainly think that it would. Don?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So on our form that we have, there's options 1, 2, 4, and a column says base repair only.
Yep.
Is that just to go in and rehab people's?
That's just, like, HVAC and technology, and the more of us bring up the code, like some windows, but it's not, but it's at $16.8 million
So,
is, you're not eligible for any reimbursement.
right.
The renovation of Peoples, if I may, is the option 1. That's the full renovation.
Okay,
Not just the base bring up to code, which is the one you see on the base repair only on the far right.
I see, thank you. And secondly, if we go to a town meeting requesting the funds, it's my understanding, and I may be wrong, so please jump right in if I am, we will be asking for a debt exclusion in the full amount
Correct.
Yes.
that you see in the total columns here, either 36.49, 38.63, 41.29, and 42.78.
Yes, and with the understanding that the reimbursement payment will be paid back to the town.
Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting.
Isn't there a window on the reimbursement? It's time-sensitive window?
Yeah, it's 4 months from when you make your decision. When you make your selection, you have 4 months in which to get it on the ballot, get it through town meeting on the ballot.
So, I agree with Peter on the programming issue. I think it's up to the superintendent and his staff to decide what grades go where and how. Probably not the building committees. I appreciate all their hard work. Believe me, this is quite an undertaking, but I just wonder how you, I think the professionals at the school department have to pare this down to what they think is best and come forward with either 1 or 2 options, because if you come in with 5 options, you're gonna have a town meeting that's gonna last for 4 days.
You have to pare down to 1 option by June.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
1 option, that's it, okay.
And
You?
but I think the thing that we have to look at is if we can save costs in any way to make this more palatable to the taxpayer. I think that is the most important thing. And I don't mean bare bone building, but we have to, fuel costs is down right now. I mean, gas is going up slowly, but it's at an all-time low. Diesel's down, so cost to make materials are down. And, so there has to be but it's all fluid. It can all change, depending on when the bids go out. I just hope that we just gotta do our due diligence to find a way to make this more palatable, so we have a chance of succeeding at the ballot. Because the only people who are gonna be victimized by this overall are the students of the town of Bourne.
Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may dovetail onto Peter's point there, but at the same time, we also need to look, I think, at the options and make sure that they accomplish the goals. So we don't want to pare it down so much so that the palatability factor outrides the actual, or overcomes the actual goal we want to accomplish, which is to replace a building we don't intend to replace anytime in the very near foreseeable future, and accomplish the goals of offering excellent education to the children of this town.
I'll give you an example of savings we did in the Bourne Elementary School when we went down to bare bones and started doing add-ons on the way up, is in order to have a cinder block inside building, it was gonna be like, if I remember, one between $1.5 and $2 million, and that was a huge saving. We went to sheet rock, and we figure, what little kid's gonna put a hole in the wall? you know, we're hoping it would last longer, so that's an example of savings to try to make it more affordable as to what you want in the guts on the inside.
Well, if I might, I think the biggest challenge that our town is gonna have is that I don't think any of these proposals that are well above $35 million, $36 million will gain the support of the voters. I don't know what I expected. I know that when we came out, maybe you could help me with the figures, but I think when the Bourne-Dale Elementary's first concept came out and failed at the polls, it was around 33 million, I think. And we cut it back, and it was less than 20, I think, when we finally went back,
Yeah,
if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, it was close to 40 with the pods, and then it went back
Yep.
on, it was almost half that.
Yep.
But we also cut the size.
28, is it 28 that we ended up with?
Yeah, and but I think it was like 22 when we were all
22
when
were
we
all said and done.
I think it was around 22.
Yeah.
That was also 10 years ago.
That's very true, Michael, it is very true, but I think these numbers are gonna really be challenged just because of the affordability, so I'm hoping there's gonna be a fallback position immediately available, like we did with the other plan, where it may look like a box store, but it meets all the criteria and so forth. I don't know, so.
There are other options that are being discussed that are out there in social media world of what the alternative would be if the override debt exclusion went down, but I think this is not the place to discuss those
No, I
tonight.
totally agree. I'm just trying to edge from the factor of that other. Okay, if there's no other questions, I thank you very much, Peter, for the presentation. I'm going to plan to put this on the agenda each week, so in case there's either additional news or if one of the groups would like to come in and use this as a forum to reach out to folks, then we can do that, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your support on this issue.
Certainly. So moving on to item number 8, that's license and appointments. The first is a renewal of the 2016 seasonal licenses for liquor, food, and entertainment
Yeah, we
and
have
general amusement.
2 of those, Mr. Chairman. I would move the 2016 seasonal liquor license, food, and entertainment license renewals for Jarvis Incorporated, DBA The Chart Room, for a liquor license, food, and weekday amusement, and Sunday amusement.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion that's been made and seconded for the approval of a license to Jarvis Inc., DBA The Chart Room. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Next one, Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of KKP LLC doing business as the Sagamore Inn for a liquor license, a common victular food license at the Sagamore Inn.
Second.
I've got a motion that's been made and seconded to approve a seasonal common victual license and all alcoholic license to KKP LLC DBA The Sagamore Inn. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I look forward to both of those opening.
We have
Okay.
common victular
Question,
food for
Michael?
2000, oh, sorry.
Question, Mr. Chairman. When's the last time when's the last time we actually looked at our fee schedule?
Oh, we look at the fee schedule about every other year. We're right in the middle of the pack. We were a few years ago on the high end. We are now in the middle of the pack, and Nancy looks at those frequently, does Cape-wide reviews, so.
Right now, our license fee is
We're about in the-
about the middle
yeah.
of what the other 14 towns are
Yeah.
doing. Thank you.
And one of the other, if I could, Mr. Chairman, you know, it's during the downturn in the economy, it was certainly not, we weren't looking to increase fees on business establishments that were having a hard enough time getting through. So it was something that we tried to hold back, so.
Okay. This is for the seasonal food and general amusement license renewals, and I'd like to recommend, gentlemen, you support the first one. It is a favorite of the police chief.
Okay, then I would move approval of the following for common victular food license renewals. Betty Ann's Dairy
There
Freeze,
you go.
Lazy Sundays Ice Cream, Seafood Shanty, Inc., Whistle Stop Ice Cream Company, Inc., and Simon Hajner, DBA Yummy Yo.
Okay.
Second.
Is anyone gonna ask Mrs. Woodside what she might think about that?
We,
or-
this is strictly between the board and Police
My-
chief.
My question is, there's one restaurant missing, and we're looking at seafood shanty, what about Skip's? Skip's Restaurant, does that normally come up every year since it's a seasonal one?
No, we haven't, it should be up. We don't see it here, so I will check with Mary in the morning.
See if it's an oversight.
Good catch, thank you. Okay, so we've got a motion to approve. Is there a second to that?
Yes.
Thank you. For Betty Ann's Lazy Sundays, Seafood
Peter.
Shanty Whistle Stop, and Yummy Yo. Any further discussion on that motion? It's been made and seconded to approve for a seasonal license. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Hope it's a great season for all of them.
I do too.
Next is a general amusement license for miniature golf. I would move the approval of the license for Katomet Light Mini Golf.
Second?
Thank you. I've got a motion made and seconded to approve the entertainment general license for mini golf, Katomet Light Mini Golf on Route 28A in Katomet. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Next one, Mr. Chairman, is 8B. It would be election workers, request of the town clerk. So I would move the following names for the position of election worker and checker. It would be two parties, Shirley P. Manning and Joel P. Smith.
Second?
Okay, I've got a motion that's been made and seconded to nominate and appoint as an election worker and checker for a term ending on June 30th. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Right, the next one has additional responsibilities for the next two people, so I would move the following individuals to be appointed election workers, checkers, and clerks. And they are Pamela Arpe and Eileen P. Grady.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint two additional residents to election worker, checker, clerk for terms expiring June 30th, 2016. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, on to Selectmen's business. We've got a request to discuss and vote on authorizing Vice Chair Picard to execute a settlement document relating to a personnel matter.
Mr. Chairman, this is something that came over from Attorney Troy. The Board of Selectmen authorized a settlement in executive session that is still under the provisions of executive session a few weeks ago. Even though the board opted to work and approve that, the direct authorization for signatory wasn't authorized, and Bob believes that it should be. Just for the record, Vice Chair Picard signed on that at the record. It came through from Labor Council on that, and Bob wants just to validate the signature with a vote of the board.
Okay. Is there a motion to authorize Vice Chairman Picard to execute a settlement document?
So moved.
So, second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I should not have said Labor Council, I should have said Associate Council on that. That's the correct terminology.
Thank you, Mr. Greenaway. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries unanimously. And at the appropriate time, we'll release those minutes. Finally, item number 10 is the Town Administrator's Report.
Mr. Chairman, this is one of the goals, both of these issues have to do with the goals of the board, and specifically some issues relative to economic development. We are working with the Chamber, Seed Corporation down on the South Coast. We're working with Mass Development. We are still trying to secure the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center, for this seminar, and UMass Dartmouth Marketing at the current date timeframe that we're proposing, which is now moving toward the middle of April, toward the last 2 weeks of April because of people scheduling. They are not available at this point. But we think that if we have 3 to 5 of these folks at the seminar, we'll certainly give a good overview of things that may be offered to startups or those folks that are looking to expand. And when we talk about small business with the SBA, that's certainly up to 500 employees. So it's not necessarily tiny businesses or just mom and pop operations, although we're looking at the homegrown business primarily to try to get, entrepreneurial, small businesses that generally grow locally, stay and thrive better than folks that come in and out. So it's moving along well. We have some I's to dot and T's to cross before we have the thing nailed down specifically, but I want to thank the executive director of the Canal Chamber. She's been working very well with us on this and been very helpful. So we're moving it ahead, and the folks at Seed and at Mass Development have been very accommodating with their time. So just letting you know, it's on the works, we're moving it forward, and it should be happening sometime in April. We could not secure it for March, it just wasn't gonna be able to happen. Seed, as an example, they were in Rhode Island doing a seminar, 2-day thing last week, so they just were able to get back to me. They've been busy, they're going over to the vineyard for a few days. So, they're doing these types of things, but they're doing them themselves for several days at a spot. So it's moving, just want the board to be aware that, it hasn't been dropped off the face of the earth and it's going. Same with the 208 planning. Terry up in the health agent, Ms. Guarino, has been working with the commission. I had a conversation with Patty Daly last week on getting the reset team down here. We expect that to be scheduled by the end of the week and have the reset team down here shortly to start moving in earnest on some of those 208 issues that we have. So just letting the board give them a little bit of update, that's all.
Questions? Anything else, Tom? Michael?
No.
A quick question, if I may. With regard to the Economic Development Seminar, have you reached out to the SCORE?
SCORE is part, that kind of comes in with the
SBDC,
SBDC, yeah, where we're on that. Actually, SCORE's doing a thing in Wareham with the SBDC. So there are, these things are happening in our area, but we're just trying to bring one locally. The Canal Chamber's been working on it. They put those on frequently, and they're in various areas, but we're trying, this is gonna be about either an 8 to 9:30 or an 8:30 to 10. Real rough and dirty overview. This is what we have, this is what we do, here are our contacts, if you have any other information you want to get in touch with us type of thing. It's not going to be an in-depth, all-day seminar, as people who own businesses can't really afford their staff or themselves to take a whole day off. I think the next step, if we were to continue on with this process, now that you asked, would be to do something like a community visit, which is something that has been done in the past with other agencies where public and private entities get together and they come into a community, scope it out, show what they can offer, and put a working plan together on how to move to a next step. That is not what this seminar is for.
If I may, another follow-up.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that note, with regard to program, at some point in time, I'd love to envision the idea where you alluded to the end user is going to be your mom and pop shop. It's going to be one of the small businesses, it's going to be small business owners up and down Main Streets or the other areas in Bourne that are impacted. And then certainly with a community visit, you tie those folks on in with folks who have expertise in the field in economic development, and it can bring relevant experiences from outside the community that may translate here. And of course, I think to tie that all together is the engagement of not only the chamber, but probably this body and maybe the town planner, municipal leadership, so that we know what we can do to help from a regulatory planning or from a policy standpoint to help encourage any of those pieces to work best together.
There are very good models nationally and of how these community visits work. We did them here in Massachusetts a few years back. They continue to work in states similar to Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Illinois, with metropolitan areas and then suburban areas and then rural areas as well. There's a really good model that works, but that takes a lot more planning. It's a 2 or 3 day thing, and you have to get the buy-in from the private sector folks. So you had Verizon and National Grid and all those folks come into these things as well. So one of the other things that we could look at in a larger scope is if there are vacant buildings, not smaller buildings, but I think groundwater analytical, that's a building, that's an example. I don't know what the status of that is with the owner, but those are the types of buildings you could look at as an example to become incubator spaces. You could renovate and have them become, small business incubators where there's cost sharing of utilities and it brings the overhead cost down for startups considerably. So those are the types of things you can look at.
Through the chair.
Please, Peter.
To Tom, what is the status of these buildings on the west end of Main Street that are for demolition? Between the old bank and Christopher's block across from the Marine Life.
I know that the building inspector has been dealing with one of the building owners in the last week. There's been fines assessed. I have not spoken with the health department relative to these buildings in the last couple of weeks, so I don't have an answer for you this evening.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Okay, selectmen's reports. Mr. Dyer, anything this evening?
No, we just have the ongoing issue over in Taylor's Point with the access to the beach at the end of Tower Lane that we're all working on right now between the neighborhood and New For You. The Article 97 to the left of the beach more, and that's a process that's ongoing right now.
Anything you can add?
Other than I've had a couple of conversations and email correspondence with Senator DiMacedo's office. They're working on a couple of things. We're trying to get a meeting set up, preferably in Boston, but it may be down here. And we're trying to get that date set up very quickly, either toward the end of this week or at the very beginning of next week. Emily in Senator DiMacedo's office has been very helpful.
Okay, and this is to explore if there were any kind of legislative action
Whatever,
taken? Right.
going through some of the historic documents
Yep.
from the 70s at the State House, yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Peter?
Not
Mr. Howard?
No, Mr. Chairman, given the late hour, I think I'll pass.
Mr. Blanton?
Really quickly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One topic. Nick, just on the other side of the building here on Friday, I was pleased to be able to attend the Joint Transportation Advisory Group, which got together with municipal leadership, regional leadership, state leadership, and got an update on the rail trail situation, the potential advent for commuter rail coming through down to Buzzards Bay. Great conversation, an awful lot of information exchanged. I think, is some of that available online, Mr. Administrator?
From the Cape Cod Transportation Study Group,
Mm-hmm.
they generally do put their things up online. I have not seen anything come in from Ethan since that meeting. When it comes in, we generally get it over to the website.
Thank you. It sounded very, very encouraging, and there was a discussion of, there were articles written about it recently, so I'm sure the gentleman in the audience covered that as well. It sounded like the pilot program to try the commuter rail was originally slated to begin in July, but it's been pushed off, unfortunately, to the fall, but it would span at least a 6-month period. There were recommendations that maybe that should go a longer period of time to be able to study not only the off-season, but also along with the on-season, summer season as well, so they get true numbers of ridership and see how it goes. They also anticipate that the pilot program numbers would be lower than anticipated because it takes some time to actually generate demand and have full ridership start to come about when people realize that this is something that will be present and take hold and go. There were discussions about, on the trail side of the conversation, there was a lot of conversation about connecting on up the canal area down to the Cheyenne Sea Bike Pathway and expanding the ability to access all of Cape Cod via bike, and that's been a long time process all the towns have been looking at for a number of years now, but it looks like that could be a reality. I was particularly encouraged to hear the discussion rotate around both rail and trail, and seeing how, for the most part, other than a few small areas of the trail that would be challenging, there seemed to be right of way to be able to accommodate both projects moving forward. So I'd encourage people to pay attention to that conversation as it evolves.
Very good. Relative to that discussion, Mr. Guarino, we've had on our agenda for a future item is to appoint a member of the public as an MBTA representative.
Yes.
Have we got any feedback at all from the MBTA and what the representative qualifications might be, or how soon we have to do that?
No, but on the 14th, I believe, of April, there will be a meeting here relative to the commuter rail issue. I believe General Manager DiPaolo or his delegate and representatives from Mass DOT will be here, and that would be the excellent place to ask that question.
Okay, very good, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Bond?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Ellis, anything this evening?
I was at the same meeting that Mr. Blanton was at, and it was very informative, and it's certainly real obvious raising of political heads that are in the process of getting there, too. I'd like to make a quick report on my continued involvement in historic aspects of the town. A few years ago, the railway station in Buzzards Bay, to upgrade it and to get it online, got a CPA grant to the inside over. It was in rather bad condition, and Maria Oliva today appeared before the Historic Commission, and she had a revised request from a rather large figure to deal with the outside. She now has a figure of $25,450 to deal with finishing off the interior, so that you'll have a reception for people that come to the Cape will be taken back into a railway station from a number of years ago, and it's going to be really well done. I brought a few friends of mine who are active in the West Barnstable Railroad group up. They took a look and gave a lot of very good input. I think everybody in town is going to be very proud of that. And it's when it's done, it's going to be an excellent use of CPA grant money to be done. There was a request to deal with the exterior part of it, but as it stands right now, Mr. Johnson, through his leadership, has requested that that be put off until such time as we find out exactly what the MBTA is going to do and the possibility of any grant money that they may have to offset tax money that goes from CPA grants that way. I do think it's a worthwhile project, and it's like a rock at the west end of Main Street. And if that's done right, which it appears it is in every way being done right now, it's going to be something the town can be proud of, because as we've all been in tune with dealing with some upgrades at the park in Buzzards Bay.
Right.
So it's all going to integrate and work together. I think the rail station is very important. I know in dealing with some of the historic aspects of the interior of the building, Marie has gone to great lengths to make sure that it's done historically correct and put together very well. I congratulate her, and hopefully at this coming town meeting, those monies will be appropriated so that she can finish the project.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry.
One thing, maybe, could you give us an update on the Main Street Steering Committee or the Buzzards Bay Park in a minute? Because Monday was canceled due to the weather, so we don't, and people have asked about the status of what's going on with Buzzards Bay Park, or do you want to put it on the next week's agenda?
I can do something next week, because as you said, that meeting had been canceled, but I believe the next meeting is until into April at this point. But let me see if I can pull something together to respond back to that.
And also, just for an informational thing, April 4th, between 12:30 and 1:30 in this building, will be Congressman Keating or his staff member will be meeting with people over Lyme disease. And Lyme disease has become a big issue here regionally and nationally, and some of our people, some of our very own family members and good friends are affected with this debilitating disease. So I encourage anybody who wants to learn more about Lyme disease and the causes and effects and what's being done for it.
When is that, Peter?
April 4th.
April
4th, 12:30 to 1:30 here.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, gentlemen? I had a question. We somehow managed to get through Winter Storm Regis lately. That was that horrible storm which shut down Boston and Providence. Do we have any idea what it cost the town of Bourne?
Not as of
Not
yet.
yet? Okay.
I do want to make a comment. Thank you for bringing that up, though.
Well, it was a breathtaking storm. I mean, I think, you know, we had lost visibility in Sagamore Beach for about 30 milliseconds, so. God,
I didn't know they named it.
the Weather Channel did. There were pictures of them standing in the middle of Boston, looking at the cars drive by bare streets, and they were commenting on what a great job DPW did. Oh, help us. Yes, Mr.
No, you know what, Mr. Chairman, I'll pass.
Okay, all right. I couldn't let that one go.
I'll pass.
There was a story at the school that canceled and then opened and canceled again with the kids in the, yeah.
Cohasset.
Motion
Yeah.
to adjourn.
Okay, if there's nothing else, gentlemen, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good night and thank you.
Yeah.
And that is a record.